So I have a question. This is Dr. Kushner in Long Beach. I was interested. I think Dr. Dart, you mentioned you led some county and city departments. So my question really revolves around the change in environment. I come from a county, very huge, very large, Los Angeles County, where there were no such thing as layoffs because of strong union support of most of our public health nurses, and I come to a city health department in Long Beach now, where the mayor and the governing council of the city, they don't have strong union support, and they're just bent on pension reform, and they're just laying off nurses and not allowing us to rehire anyone other than in a non-career status, in other words, for no benefits. And it's been very difficult. We've been slashed so dramatically, in the interim, and it's just such a change in culture for me. And I'm also having difficulty getting an audience with the mayor and the city manager, who seem to, moving forward with pension reform. And just any pearls or any people that have had, similar experiences. I know I'm going to keep at it. It hasn't been a very long time, but it's been very frustrating.
Who is your direct boss? Who do you report to?
I'm the direct boss right now in Long Beach at the City Health Department. When I was with LA County, Dr. Jonathan Fielding was the lead boss.
So do you report to the mayor? Do you report to your Board of Health?
We have a Board of Health, report to the city manager of Long Beach.
And I'm assuming the bulk of your city funding is through sales tax revenue?
No, actually, the bulk of, and that's the other frustrating piece, and that only about 1% of our funding comes from the general fund of the city. The majority of our funding is from grants. We've been very fortunate having staff that have been very successful with grants, and then realignment dollars, yes, revenue dollars. Well, that's our source of revenue.
And I just want to tell you, if it was an easy job, anybody could do it. So you're obviously the right person at the right time to come meet the challenges in Long Beach. And because your funding streams are what they are. You want to grow a stronger connection with your city's political system. Your mayor, it sounds like your city manager. You have a city manager structure, form of government there. So, but it's going to take time, and you build that relationship over time, and you help build value of your department over time. You work very much on showing those political decision makers the value that you bring to the community and the difference that you make in the lives of their constituents. And those are goals you want to try and achieve, and you achieve them over time. And you have to be patient and navigate the environment. I mean, it sounds right now like your environment is extremely politically charged. The city manager and mayor are trying to do what their constituents want in terms of political reform and union reform. So you're just in a stormy time right now, but that won't last forever. And it's staying the course and building relationships and the value of your department and showing the difference that your department makes to people's lives as this environment transforms to the next one.
Thank you, both Bruce and Mitch, for that.
This is Mary Gels with Pacific County. My question kind of relates to how do you stay up to date on all of the issues while still trying to do all of the day out things that are required for the job?
I do a lot of reading. I do a lot of internet. I rely on my staff my content experts to keep me informed on their specific areas. I'm very choosy about what meetings I go to because I really want to make sure that they're going to be something that's going to be informative, that is useful. I really don't go to a lot of meetings that I think it's going to be a repeat or nothing new. So you just have to be really vigilant and keep screening the materials that come your way and identify the ones that are really rich with the kind of information that's helpful to you. And then, meeting and talking with people. As I think we've all said, we're really looking forward to the January meeting because we'll all be learning from one another as well. Professional meetings are a good source. State Association of County and City Officials. If you're not involved in yours yet, I would highly recommend that. And then, of course, NACHO.
All the things that Lou said, and I think we do all those things, and networking is so important. But we also hear, I try and really hire great people. I think that's probably one of the most important things you can do because I hire smart people and I gather away. I can't be everywhere, so I've got to depend on my staff to understand the issue and take autonomous action and bring new ways to do things to the plate. So for me, it's relying too on a generation of staff members that are open and willing to think outside the box and look at new ways of activities to achieve success. So it's all about the people in the room.
I would agree. The only thing that I might add is that I have a priority system that folks know, and that and the priority system about when I will get to what kinds of items is by a time period. My emails I also to be categorized for me before I get there, because I'm on so many lists. It would be impossible to keep up with everything. So it helps me focus my attention, both in terms of the priority 1, priority 2, priority 3, and then also in terms of by category.
What guidance would you give to the fellows in selecting a coach?
Well, Lou's my favorite, so I'm not sure.
And have everyone scrambling for one person.
Yeah, Lou is awesome. So not taking anything from Carlos.
No, I'm in agreement with you.
Pick one with a sense of humor like Bruce.
Absolutely.
No, I know most of the people who will be coaches for this fellowship group, and you guys can't go wrong with whoever you choose, I think, and because everybody here on this phone call, I can tell, has the ability to communicate, and you can relate. If you can relate, you can form a relationship, and from there it's just sky's the limit.
I think it's also an issue of match. That if you begin to have a sense of connection to any of us, that's a good first start. There's also the skill set. I think there's a lot of variety in terms of the coaches, what they bring, and some similarities. So to the degree you can assess about what you think you need and what you're going to guess you can get from each one of us. So, but that sense of match, I think it's an important first step. It's a good predictor for lots of outcomes.
A question I have for the coaches is, in your past experience, either as a coach or in the Surviving Thrive program, what do you feel that past participants have found to be most valuable?
I think it's the ability to identify ongoing life or career-long coaching processes. So if you've had a coach before, and this is the first formal coaching experience, I think that's a good first step. And then to continue looking at who's the next coach. What are some of the additional skill sets that you can add on, and who has them? And in that is the process of informal coaching. If you identify a colleague, for example, who has a skill set, you would trade. So there's that continual openness to feedback, continuous improvement in your own practice as an administrator, and to use your colleague systems as well as formal coaching to continue to advance your skill.
Well, this is Jennifer in Colorado, and I'm just wondering if you could, before you speak, identify, I can't tell between Carlos and Bruce, so if you could just identify yourself so I know who's answering which question. Thank you.
I'm the bald one.
I would say Carlos
Thank you for the clarification. Now I see.
Okay.
Boy, if I was bald, you'd be embarrassed.
This is a question for Carlos. What challenges, if any, have you had in a health and human services structure as opposed to a standalone LHA?
Well, the funding systems are radically different, and the cultures of public health is much different than the culture in the behavioral health funding system. We manage a very CMS-driven, outcome-driven medical model in the mental health community and BD arena. The tone in us and our funding system is much more of a provider rather than as a partner. We are, my bias, blessed by our Secretary of Health, Mary Selecki, who was a local health official who then ended up being in the secretary position and never has lost that local perspective and that perspective of partnership. And in that difference, it's the ability to be multicultural, going from one hour that you may be dealing with a public health issue that has a much more collaborative community base into the next hour of looking at contract compliance with exquisite levels of detail of our of making sure that we are in full reconciliation of faith billing and so forth. So it's that flexibility of moving back and forth, and then always assuming that there's an opportunity on either side of the equation. So there's always a behavioral health opportunity in public health, and there's always a public health opportunity in behavioral health. So it's both a challenge, but also I think it's an opportunity.
And hey, Carlos, if I can add to that, one thing I really recommend, regardless of your governmental structure, you really learn your budget cycles. Learn the budget process, when the hearings are, what the planning process is, and make sure you're a part of that. And it can be confusing when you go from structure to structure, or there's different structures within your communities. But if you're what your budget cycle is and the planning and processes that go into that budget cycle, you're at least ahead of the game.
This is a question for Lou. How have you created a learning environment in your organization?
Great question. That was very important early on when I first got here, and I was able to establish a workforce and leadership development position. I had to be able to assure the county that we were not duplicating efforts with what county HR was providing, but we were working on very specific professional public health issues, and that we would be available to support HR if they needed it. And that has worked out well. We've been doing core public health competence orientation on EPI 101 program. We have probably 6 to 8 different universities bringing their students through. We actually literally have them coming by the busload now from our local schools of nursing. And we've been able to really participate comfortably with the whole accreditation process and MAP process and be engaged with that. We also do a fair amount of research in collaboration with our university here in Fort Worth. And so that position has really allowed us to do all of that. We also have a number of demonstration projects. We're usually one of the go-to counties for the state when they want to try something new, and we've also done that to some degree at the federal level. We've been an advanced practice center for the last 8 years, and that has really leveraged some additional funding now that the advanced practice center funding has completed around surveillance.
We are running out of time, and we hope that both the coaches and fellows have found this call to be helpful. Just before we end, a few reminders, and after the meeting, we will be asking each of the fellows to consider each coach you'd like to be matched with. A few other reminders are, if you have an email about travel from ATC Reardon, please contact Francesca Blanco for both fellows and coaches. Please remember that NATRA would like everyone to have their flights to San Antonio. Thank you.